time now for the business news. Nona Pelsier's come into the studio to talk to us. Nona, so last month's business confidence, it's being dragged down by COVID-19. It seems like most things are. What are the numbers?
So some of these numbers are probably worse than what I'm going to tell you, and that's because the survey was just towards the beginning of the virus concerns, and then so if they had asked the questions later, you can consider these numbers will be worse next survey. So these are survey numbers from sort of at the beginning of this month and probably tail off in January, that idea. Okay, so what we've got here is a net 19% of businesses expect general conditions to worsen in the coming year, and that compares with 13% before. So that's considerably more. But what's more important is how businesses feel about their own outlook, and in that case, the optimism is only 12%. Have some optimistic view of the coming year, and that compares with 17%. Now, these numbers were already pretty weak, and we kind of hoped that they would improve a little bit, but it hasn't happened, and it's more likely to go the opposite direction. The real gloominess has been in the agricultural sector, which has been hit by the drought, of course. So on top of the COVID-19 virus, there's also the drought, and those two things together, it really is quite gloomy for businesses because drought typically occurs at times of recession. It often triggers our recession. So that makes people concerned right away. And that means that people basically, or businesses rather, are not hiring staff, and they're not investing, and they expect they're going to be exporting less as well.
So they're overall, hunkering down.
Very much so. And that definitely... the concern about the COVID-19 virus has come through in our business reports that we received today. So today was one of the biggest days on the business calendar in terms of reporting, so for the period ending December 31st. And what we got there was quite a mixed bag. One company that stood out amongst the others was A2 Milk, which exports whole milk powder to China.
And has been something of a golden child.
And it certainly continued to prove that today. Their half-year profit surged 21% in the 6 months to December. And they are still very positive about the outlook because, people still have to provide that nutrition for children and so on. They sell specialty infant formula, that kind of thing. They've also diversified into the United States market with liquid milk. And so they're doing quite well. Their sales were up a third to China, and liquid milk sales in Australia and the United States also increased. So overall, that company certainly led the market today. So on the NZX Top 50 Index, we started the day with a pretty positive start, about a percentage, 1% up. But then what happened was as this confidence survey came out, the markets really reversed its fortunes then, and we ended down almost 1% just in a matter of a few hours. Apart from the leaders were all down, other than A2 Milk, which gained about 5%, but not enough to lead the market back to the positive side.
Yeah, well, given it is reporting season, that's one positive story,
Yes.
But other businesses...
We had a mixed bag. I'll tell you what. We had amongst the other companies report today was the airline.
Air New Zealand.
Air New Zealand. And there's a company that's reviewing its options. What can it do in these days? Right at the moment, there's so much unknowns about the COVID-19 virus. So travel... It's not just travel from China, of course. Tourism generally. People are putting off traveling, avoiding closed spaces like airplanes, that kind of idea. But they've got a new chief executive, Greg Foran, and he sort of... Well, he was on the call today. He didn't actually talk to us. We didn't get an interview with him. But he's new to the job, obviously. But one of the things he is doing is reviewing what risks and opportunities are ahead for Air New Zealand in light of what's been going on. The analysts I spoke to said, well, their options are fairly limited, really. Demand isn't there, so therefore all they can really do is adjust supply and spend perhaps more on marketing. But, this guy, who's their new chief executive, he was the brains behind Walmart in the United States, and he was also a leader for Woolworths in Australia. So I'm sure he was going to bring some good ideas to the table, one would hope.
So where did we settle on the numbers at close of play?
Oh, let's see here. That's right. Okay, well, look, the currency was steady, 62.9 US cents, 95.9 Australian, 48.7 British pence. The index itself dropped 0.8%. That's a 97-point drop. 11,437 was our ending, much in line with what we've seen in Australia and in Asia. Certainly the losses are being extended there.
Thanks, Nona. Nona Pelletier with our business news.